Now, I suppose one of the things that's against us is that in the past, the three cities, your beautiful tri-cities, are actually like siblings that don't get along. You know, you're in the same family, but if one gets a present, the other one needs, the other one needs it. And there's some evidence that the goodies, like the natatorium that was going to go to Pasco gets pulled back because it's in Pasco, etc. I think it's very, very clear that this is at the geographic center of your area. But not only that, there may be slightly better intersections. But really what's interesting about this is that there's no piece of land inside your urban boundary that is as large and well located as this. This is just the place. This is where you have a town center. Now, the town center is best administered by Kennewick. We strongly believe that it needs to be designed with these pieces. Okay, there's a little piece here, obviously needs to be brought in. This piece obviously needs to be brought in. This belongs to the irrigation district. It's very important to design this frontage in one shot. This actually is the civic center. This is where you're already building the hotel, the convention center, the hockey rink, and so forth, the Toyota Center. And this should be actually made one great civic center, if you decide to go that way, and brought into the center of ours. So this was our charge, but we went ahead and designed that. And then we realized that this is the 100% corner, not this. It's not bad, but it's relatively weak. Actually, in terms of where activity is, where automobiles are. This is the least on this end. I'm sorry, I didn't learn the street names. It was hard enough to just find stuff. But I think this is where the baseball fields are. So this has the second amount of traffic. This has the most amount of traffic on our site. But this is really the big intersection up here. And so I think one of the commissioners, someone told us, you really should reach up there, because that's where you're going to tap into the energy and bring it in. And we're suggesting that trades take place and so forth, so that over time, this reaches that corner. Just so you grab the energy and bring it in. Okay, this is an almost perfect example of what not to do. Very, very large roads. Okay, very, very large roads. And why are they so large? Because there's so few of them. I'm going to lay in here, you'll see shortly, all of Portland. And there are hundreds of little roads, all of which can be small. When you make super blocks, you have very few roads, but all of them are large, and all of them are uncrossable and extremely unpleasant. You see, so this is why you're having a place in which I can't even walk 2 minutes from my hotel to where I work. I just can't, because it's just too horrible. And it was a 2-minute walk. And what you will see in this plan is a whole different way of planning, in which is very, very tightly gridded. It's a lot of permeating. So all the roads can be small. And as long as roads are small, and all the public spaces become friendly to pedestrians. Now, you've asked for fully pedestrian places. One of you asked, we just want pedestrian places. Pedestrian places die. Okay, they're either the mall that survived because of very intense management, or they're the main streets we installed in 1960 and they all died. Over 200 were installed, they all died but 3. You know what I mean? I think you had one. Pedestrian, they had to be torn out. Cars provide life. The thing is that the cars need to move slowly. Very slow moving cars. When you go to Europe, and many of you have mentioned Europe to me, you'll see that cars are everywhere, but they're moving slowly. And the parking, which also exists in Europe, are in plazas. Here we do parking in parking lots. Over there, parking in plazas. But mostly what we've done is hide the parking. Just hide it. So bear in mind that when you're getting some pedestrian environments here because you asked for. But I believe they should be pedestrian only in really special times, like Saturdays and weekends, and maybe, you choose. You have bollards that you can put in and out. You choose. But I think it's dangerous to make entirely pedestrian zones because they might die. So again, think of cars moving slowly. This is our site, and this is the entire super block, which might one day be redesigned. And this is all of Portland, from Portland State University to Burnside Street, and from Providence Park to the river. which is all anybody's ever seen of Portland if you've been there. I mean, there's nothing else outside virtually speak of, and it all fits in this super block. And look at the size of the blocks. Look at the grain of the block. That's real urbanism. That's how far you are from doing it. And we're getting much closer to that. So while, yes, the architecture is going to be really nice, and it's going to be pedestrian, and there's going to be fountains and all this stuff, the really, really important thing is that really finely wrought network. That's what makes urbanism work. But let's look at this site. No matter what we do, the site is linear, nothing wrong with that. There is a square in the center, which is lucky enough to be associated with, lo and behold, the convention center. You know, that didn't have to happen that way, but it's lucky, because that's actually the civic center of the Tri-Cities is building up to be there. So that's lucky. And then at the end, we have two tips that have traffic, here and here. By the way, you don't necessarily ever, there are lots of sites that don't hook onto the major roads. And we hook onto twice, two of them. So we can have two pretty heavy, actually, town centers at the edge, and those are the ones that can be 4 stories. And I'm going to show you some pictures of some of our 4-story towns. You know, that's the real urban stuff. That it's not Portland, but it's getting there. And then in the middle, if you draw a circle here of half a mile diameter, it's 5-minute walk to here and there. 5-minute walk from here to there, from here to there. If the bus stops here and the bus stops there, you have what I call a pedestrian catchment. Basically, you'll have transit that works, because transit only works when you can walk to it. People don't drive to go to the bus stop. They just keep driving. So what this is, you have a very large number of pedestrian catchment here. And so this structures beautifully. By the way, this didn't have to be a mile long. You know, this is all these lucky things that are happening. It just structures itself really well. So we do have, you'll see this later, we do insist on 1 road and 5 squares and the 2 infrastructure. And then these other roads that happen here, you see it's almost like a Portland grid. Those other roads get to be designed later. You know, you get to decide. Now this is what's so interesting. Because engineers come first, they always come in and lay the road. And then everybody has to comply. So we get quite rigid urbanism. It's always aligned, you know, the subdivisions are cookie cutter houses, you know, the curve. Even if you have all these curves, the buildings are not doing anything. The buildings are all very disciplined. How do they do this in Europe, that the buildings wiggle like that? You know, this fantastic picturesqueness. Actually, one of you asked for that. That's one of the patterns, this fantastic picturesqueness. How do they do that? Well, because the infrastructure and the buildings work together. And the rule was this: carts require 16 feet. Do whatever you need to do, just leave 16 feet clear. So you negotiate with your neighbor over and back. Do you want a bay window? Oh, I got a tree here. Well, this guy has a tree, therefore you have to set back another 4 feet. And over time, people negotiate with each other, leaving the track a variety. And some people say, you know, actually I want more light. And they pull back. You see, and that's how you get this fantastic stuff. We can do this here. I've never been in a situation where you can do this, because what you have is the asphalt there, all ready to go. It's like, it's just pure matrix. It's like snow. You can actually draw whatever you want with it. And one of the patterns we'd like to propose is that the rule be something like, tell us what the houses are, just leave 24 free for the fire marshal. That's all the fire marshal wants, 24 feet. By the way, do you want a car? Do you want to have a little car in front? Fine, it's just a little wider. You like trees? No problem. You know, just like that. Do you want a porch? Do you want to sit in front, watch your neighbor? A little garden? No problem. You just negotiate it through. Now, it can't be done at the last moment. You know, every block needs to, you know, you all need to get together and design the block. But I'll show you what it looks like, and it's wonderful. It would be absolutely unique. And I think it's really making use of this privilege you have of having all this pavement, nice and wide there. This is our master, Leon Creer, who is a great, great European architect who's so disturbed by the American grid that he actually invented this way of disrupting it with little You know, look at this. Okay, this is the street we always get. Even in the best cities, we get, this is New York, straight streets, Portland. What would happen, so long as the travel can get through, why can't you sort of disrupt it like this? It's the same amount of open space, but you get one plaza and you get another plaza, and look at the look. So this is a man who's actually thinking there's a problem with the American system, and he made this drawing and he inspired us. And this is how we realized that you can actually, the pleasure of seeing this is all too rare in the United States. And so we definitely went for it. And look at these. See, this is very similar. He would really recognize this. And so this is the terrible thing you're all afraid of, this guy. But look at this. Look at that. It's a regular, I don't know what this is like, but it's in some ways, I apologize, it's kind of un-American. I know that you, out west, you want straight stuff, but it's really extremely workable. Notice, too, the courtyard buildings. Notice how the buildings have a front and a back and a side, and these courtyards are really, really private. Look at that. See? And one of the things a good planner does is very clear about this is the front and that's the back. Okay? There's front and there's back. And we want all the fronts inside. You see how perfect all this is, and the parking lots face out, right? Now this is Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is cool but conventional. They want the parking visible, and they want their gate, their entrance visible. But you also want to walk to it, right? Don't you? So we put the Trader Joe's here, and this is that part that these supermarkets have that's outside of the cash registers, and sometimes you can hang around there and eat. Notice that from the outside, you can see it and it's perfectly visible. Consider this to be a glass box. Okay, this is a dumb box. This is an elegant glass box. These are additional things like drugstores, the things that hang around, the bank and so forth, things you need, but they're big. From the back, they have their conventional relationship to parking, but if you come from the front, you just walk in. So this glass box, which is pretty handsome, for those who don't live in this project, they can actually come from the outside. Those who live in the project can come from the inside. So you're getting these hybrids, that actually are now being developed that work both ways, and they recognize. Very formal, large square. Notice how the parking is always inside. By the way, this is one of these master plans. This is one of these sector areas that basically we design. Because it's very important to get it right, and there isn't enough discipline to just hand over the way you do in the bands. Okay, now these are the bands. These are the overheads, right? This is the big road that comes straight, comes up, goes over, and then at the other square comes down again. This is the much more advanced design of the art center, which has a large performance, a small performance, a couple of big porches, and an outdoor place with a stage. And somebody said, could you have some containers? I said, perfect. That's what we needed to make the back wall. So this, as you see this place actually forms a square, et cetera, et cetera. So there are faster roads, there are very small roads where the fire marshal can still get through, but are incredibly picturesque, you see? You go like that. And this you can only do if you have pavement, all set to go so you can wiggle and shake like that. It's going to be like no other place you've seen. Really no other place. The real estate cycle is 8 years. We're already 2 to 3 years into the upcycle. We have 5. Okay, you've got to have the first phase or two in there at the beginning, or because it's like everybody else. It's just going to go fallow. What you don't want to do is to be stuck with 16 houses in the middle of a runway. Okay, you want to have 2 neighborhoods in the next 5 years. So when it stops, not if it stops, when it stops, and some people say it may never come back. You must have heard that part. Okay, this may be the last cycle of all. You want to have enough there that those who have trusted you to buy in actually have a community. and a pretty big community. I think you owe the early buyers that speed. Okay? It's really that, almost like that kind of wartime urgency. So if you want a reason why this should happen immediately, that's the one to take into account. You really want 2 phases in, finished and running on all 4 cylinders 5 years from now.